Greetings and welcome to the RewirEd Talks. RewirEd Talks is a collaboration between Expo 2020 and Dubai Cares, which delves deep into education for an irradiant future. I'm Aafia Abubaker, a high school student studying in St. Mary's Catholic, and I have insightful thoughts which I would love to share. I'm thankful to RewirEd Talks for giving students an opportunity to share their thoughts and views, and I feel it's a great initiative from the UAE government. Today, we're going to focus on the future of education. Education is an epoch making tool which can revolutionize the world. It is groundbreaking as it can make people percipient and diminish the poverty and criminality around the world. The strife within people can be effaced through this renowned tool. This influential entity can give voice to everyone, especially those who are silenced. In essence, it blossoms the world a harmonious place to live in. Yet there are inexplicable and unanswered queries in our minds which we want to discourse about. I have five intuitive participants with me to discourse about this thought-provoking topic. So first off, please introduce yourselves. Ms. Kankanika, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, as most of you know, I'm a high school teacher in St. Mary's Catholic High School. I'm also an A-level coordinator there. And I believe that education has taken a paradigm shift after the COVID situation. However, we are all dealing with it, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Ms. Sandra, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sandra Kurian. I study in Don Bosco Senior Secondary School in Kochi, India.
Sharon?
Hello everyone, my name is Sharon Susan Ishu and I'm a year 11 student in St. Mary's Catholic High School, Dubai. I want to be an inspiring person to my peers and family, and I love to read, listen to music, bake, try out adventurous activities, and travel around the world.
Ahmad?
Greetings to everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be a part of this discussion. My name is Amatul Rahman. It is a made-up name, definitely. I own a blog. It's called Kitna Fitna. Feel free to check out on Google, and I am participating here as a student, as a Gen Z student to be specific, and how we are facing the COVID-19 situation. Looking forward to have a discussion with you.
Subeta?
Hi, my name is Subeta Maman. I'm 17 years old and I study in St. Mary's Catholic High School in Dubai.
So thank you everyone for joining me in this discussion, and let's make it fruitful as possible. So let's go to the first question. Is it easier for Gen Z students to adapt to the teaching methods post-pandemic due to the paradigm shift in the learning experience or because of remote learning? How can we combat this issue? Subeta, can we hear it from you?
I do think it is very easy for Gen Z to shift because most of our time we're spending time on the internet or social media. So we're already well adversed with how technology works. So the shift from on-site school to distance learning was pretty easy in my opinion. But I think after pandemic, schools may consider to continue with distance learning because of all the advantages it poses. However, I'm completely disagreeing with that, and I hope that schools go back to on-site learning because it was, in my opinion, extremely damaging to the mental and physical health of these students and teachers because the distance learning has removed the distance between school and our homes, which ultimately remove the distinction between our work life and our leisure life. So this led us to get exhausted really easily and had a lot of negative effects in our motivation. So I hope after pandemic has ended, which is probably close, I'm being optimistic, I hope schools go back to on-site learning because although distance learning is very good, it's not always the best option for everyone.
Yeah, I agree with Subeta because because of the pandemic, remote learning has been damaging our health. Like mostly, we all are having because of staying on the laptops for long hours, Zoom meetings, assignments. Not only that, but we are learning stuff, researching online. We are using phones a lot, like for frequently when we are in our homes. So eye strain, backache, etc. And using a lot of gadgets has also made us have sleepless nights because of that, and insomnia, etc. I hear a lot of my friends complain about those issues. I also wish we go back to physical school as soon as possible. Yeah, Sharon, do you want to?
Yes, I do agree with Subeta, and it is personally like I have also experienced. I have also experienced very bad experience with distance learning, and yes, I feel it is easier for Generation Z to adapt to the teaching methods post pandemic. And I had endured periods of vulnerability when I had first started distance learning, but in a month it had all changed. I could very well adapt to it. And I think remote learning had started during the month of March, and I was struggling to sit in front of the laptop for long hours and completing all homework at the same time. I used to face frequent headaches and backaches and eye strain. Now it is better as I've learned to take break in between my work, especially the 20-20-20 rule. And I felt that the teachers were were the worst hit, as the teachers were not well adapted to the situation. During their years, they did not have much access to the internet and technology, so due to which they had to go through intense training. Another point I felt is that it's all about the social aspect. Many kids love to socialize and would want to go to the campus, so they must have been awfully depressed, unlike the children who feel home is their comfort zone. Also, the post pandemic situation depends on the school. If they are fine, if they're good with online, then I think they would go ahead. And yes, if they shift to physical school, then kids would surely adapt easily. However, kids in KG1 and KG2 will face some difficulties as they practically started their school year online, and they won't know how to properly communicate with their peers and teachers. Socializing would be extremely complicated. Lastly, it also depends on the individual's opinion. Many children are comfortable in their home environments, so they won't need to struggle much. However, there are kids who would like to be on campus and mingle with their friends, uh, like they feel frustrated at home.
um Miss, would you like to share your thoughts? Yeah.
I think I agree entirely with both Subeta and Sharon that it was really difficult for students as well as teachers to shift from the on-site school to the off-site school, working from home. The first thing is when you are in a formal setup, right? You are in a formal setup, so you have the full focus in a classroom. You are in front of a teacher, you are amongst your peers, and you are there seeing everyone doing their work, and you feel motivated. That is the first thing. Second point is that when you're in your home, the setup absolutely changes. I mean, you can be in your bed, in your pajamas, you just get up and groggily, log in. And because just like technology is a boon, it is also a bane. It can make you distracted very, very easily. So what you cannot do in front of the teacher, unknowingly and unintentionally, you can do in your home when you're sitting behind a screen. So that is there. Definitely, I would also want to go back to on-site teaching. Having said that, the schools had given the choice between blended learning and off-site learning, that is, distance learning. All the schools I know have given, our school also has given after, every 3 months they had done the survey, how many students would want to come, etc. Yes, it is a very difficult situation. I know parents have been afraid. I know maybe students have felt insecure, coming and, asking friends, are you going? Are you going? Are you opting? So if one student says, no, I'm, doing it from home, the other person also feels, okay, I will be the only one in the class. So let me also, do it, continue my school from, home, do the distance learning. So a lot of factors, play in a person's mind. You cannot pinpoint why didn't you come. There is no wrong and right. Human psychology is a very complex subject. So yes, and I am very happy and I'm very proud to say that all my students, as Sharon said, in spite of several difficulties, in spite of so many homeworks, but they have actually sailed through the year very nicely. I'm very happy and I'm very proud of that.
Thank you, Miss, for sharing your thoughts. Those were really really good, like really thought-provoking and insightful. How about Amat?
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to quite disagree with what Ms. Subaita said. In the first point, she said that since Gen Z, we are using social media, we are prominent people among social media platforms, so it will be easy for us to adapt post-pandemic. It's not exactly just because we are quite okay with using social media doesn't mean we'll be able to easily adapt. Of course, there will be a time of adjustment, but it won't be very easy because this thing post-pandemic will not be it's not very evident. There is no green signal to say that, yes, one day there is no corona cases and things are normal now. You can come back to schools and have your learning there. So when that happens, the learning process should shift gradually from online to offline. Only then the students will be able to acclimatize with the change in the study. Because for almost a year here, we are having our academics on online sessions, right? And also like how Sharon and other people said about the difficulties we are facing, be it the backache or any other things they said. I quite agree with them there because we've been facing a lot of difficulties while having online sessions, and we got used to it to a point where it is okay for us to have online sessions. And then all of a sudden, we come back to dusty blackboards and markers and seeing the teachers. It won't be easy for us. It will be a bit difficult, and that is why I would say the educational institutions and the boards, they should make sure that this change that we will be experiencing from online to offline should be gradual.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Amat. Yeah. How about Sandra?
Thank you, Aafia. So Generation Z in the post-pandemic world, I think it's like Subeta said, it's going to be fairly easier for Generation Z to cope with the teaching methods in the post-pandemic world because Generation Z is, it revolves mostly around, sorry, I just got a notification. So Generation Z, it mostly revolves around technology. From the time that we could talk, cell phones, the internet, technology has been very much commonplace for us. So as Generation Z is very much revolved around such things, I do believe that people from in the Generation Z are constantly seeking for new ideas and new experiences, and therefore more often than not, change is welcome by the Generation Z people. They accept changes and they are ready to face challenges. We are ready to face challenges when they come, even if we are not completely prepared. So we know that the internet and all of those things have become a necessity of our life rather than something that is a luxury. So I do believe that during remote learning, the learning as well as the teaching processes are going to be fairly easy for the Generation Z people to adapt with. because it's going to mostly revolve around the use of technology. So yeah, it's going to be rather easy for them to cope with.
My thoughts are slightly contradicting some of the points which you guys said. So I feel that it will be difficult and arduous for students to communicate and interact with their friends, peers, and teachers because of the dearth, because of the decrease in communication. Like these days, I'm not speaking to everyone. Like my classmates, I'm not speaking to 30 people, like 30 of my classmates. I'm just speaking to like handful of them. And sometimes, like mostly these days, I'm only speaking to one person, like one of my classmates every day. So I feel that when we go back to physical school, I feel like they will be like students will be fretful to speak to their classmates properly. This is because remote learning has widened the widened the connection between the individuals. So I feel it would take a considerable amount of time to get back to the normal, like how we were all before remote learning, before the pandemic. And due to the great diminish of in socializing with the teachers as well, I feel that students may find it difficult to speak to the teacher, interact with the teacher, and they find it difficult to ask questions. And I feel they will be unresponsive in classes. I also feel that students may feel lost or in another world because of not being responsive with the teachers. And I feel that teachers can actually solve this issue by formulating an amicable relationship with these students by having those icebreaker sessions. Those are really effective. I wouldn't actually have the need to say that because like most of the teachers, everyone teachers are really approachable these days in this era. However, I feel that the first thought to pile up, to interact, to socialize with friends, with teachers, everyone should come from the student first. Then only a change will be perceivable. I also feel that, okay, apparently the lack of face to face communication makes difficult for students to interact, to speak to each other. Okay, I actually experienced this. One day I was supposed to meet my friend because I needed to collect a book or something. So when I went to meet her, like that was like the first time after like remote learning, I met a friend. It was like after like 6 months or something. So I was really tense. Okay, so I was like I couldn't speak properly when I tried to speak with her. I couldn't speak properly. I was like stammering a lot, stuttering a lot, and I was also like overawed whether my friend will be against whatever I'm speaking about. Like we spoke about casual things, like casual like normal things which is happening around the world, the news and stuff. So I was like overawed whether my friend won't accept my beliefs and stuff. And for a moment, I actually spoke with my close friend online, like every day or something. But however, when I met her in person, I couldn't speak properly to her. I felt that she was a stranger, like for a second. And I think we all might have experienced that. I'm not really sure. But however, I feel that it will be easier for students. Like a pro is that it will be easier for students to concentrate on classes as they won't have the distractions which we all had in remote learning. And I feel practicals can be carried out easily, and students can have a consolidated understanding of what's been taught. So, the quality of focusing and understanding in synchronous lessons has also vastly decreased due to children sitting in a unfriendly environment where distractions cannot be controlled. Students aren't able to put 100% of the efforts which they usually put. And I feel that's due to frequent lack of frequent two-way communication and eye contacts, which we all had in physical school. I also feel that underachieving students and slow learners aren't able to receive the individual attention they had from the teachers back in physical school. And I feel that the teaching methods, different teaching methods for different levels of students cannot be practiced as well. And I feel that as we are all are studying using the technology, like my chemistry teacher, like my teachers, like the teachers I have, like my class teachers, they all teach using using technology. You know, that whiteboard in Zoom application, the PowerPoint, and the simulations and stuff. Once we learn concepts using those technological aids, after a while, after we move to the next topic, we usually forget what we learned previously. So I feel that it's a hitch in a way. Yeah. Does anyone want to comment on what I just said?
Yeah, I do agree how our social skills has reduced greatly when distance learning has started. And I think this social lack of social skills can get in between of our schoolwork and studying, because for example, if I have a doubt and I lost all my confidence throughout the pandemic, it will be hard for me to ask the teacher and my doubt, and so I will have a reduced understanding of that lesson and maybe score less in my exams. So it has like a domino effect of how a small thing can really affect us greatly.
True, I also feel that. But as you know, Sharon said that every transition is difficult. So when first this, the online classes started, she was having a difficult time. We were all having a difficult time. Physical difficulty, emotional difficulty. We were away from our friends. We used to meet them every day. It was only through the lens that we were seeing them. And there was lack of interaction. There was lack of class participation also. We all know. Again, now when we will go to back to school, back to on-site learning, again the transition initially, as both of you all said, Aafia and Subeta, it will be difficult. Definitely, it won't be easy. It will be difficult for you. It will be difficult for us. But it is up to us how easy or how hard we make it to be. Because at the end of the day, that is education. That we have to be there in the in the school. Yes, the COVID has opened up a new path, because we have the option of online learning, right? But having said that, when you are there, it's learning. It's not only lecture and doing your assignments. It's a lot more than that. It's about a holistic development of your personality, right? Which requires social skills, which requires a lot more. And that requires interaction also, one-to-one interaction, empathy, understanding, respect, everything. For example, just imagine a scenario where all of you were in a class of 30, a child does not switch on the camera, neither the mic. How, as a teacher, can I make that person, I can ask that person, switch on your mic, switch on your camera. But what am I doing? I'm actually wasting my time, because 29 of my students, they are eagerly waiting for me to start the class. The best I can do, or the worst I would say, is to remove the person from the class. Will it do her or him any good? He or she will miss the class, right? Miss the lesson. So every transition, everything that we start is difficult, but that doesn't mean we'll be afraid and we'll sit in our home. We will definitely embrace the on-site learning. And as Ahmad said, yes, gradually, so that the process becomes smooth, right? It's not a radical change. It becomes smooth, so that we become, we acclimatize with that on-site learning, and it becomes a smooth process for all of us.
Yes, Miss. What you said was actually true. Like I feel that as Sharon and as you said, Miss, I feel like we can get through this. Like after post pandemic, I feel like it's gonna be difficult for us, but we can, like, if we all stay confident, we can hopefully, like, yeah, get through it. Yeah. So let's like move to the second question. So the marks from the test and exams are collated together in report cards. So is it a measure of students' intelligence? And what can be the other alternatives to determine students' intelligence? So Amat, can you please share your thoughts?
I suppose this question is based on how education or academics is being held during the pandemic classes, right? Like during online classes, you're saying that the exams and the marks.
I'm talking about generally, not only specific to online classes. Yeah.
Yeah, so in that way, I think it is good. It is good to collate both the final exam and the whatever test that happen in the middle, because as long as that is provided, as long as the teachers, they don't resort to just one way of assessing students, because then it would be called conventional. But now we all know that we no longer go for conventional with the advent of technology. And as you mentioned, we are not starting this conversation basically with students, because then we will have students of all sorts. We are starting this whole conversation with Gen Z as a main picture. So which means students right from kindergarten to the high school students. So in that way, like I said, the advent of technology, you can have more and more ways to assess students' ability to grasp what is being taught, or the students' intelligence level and all that. So I think it is better to have a collation between these two, because in that way, the teachers will have more instruments to assess the student. So if the student wants to, if the teacher wants to test or evaluate the students, then they should be having more mark allocations, right? Like for example, a 20% would be based on how the students answer the quiz, and the remaining based on the class interaction, and some others based on the group presentation. So there is a lot of activities that a teacher is putting forth, and you need marks for that. So it is better to collate both. And yeah, I think that is good. It is best to collate.
How about Subeta?
I do agree with Ahmad. Testing students is a good way of seeing their capability, but as she said, we shouldn't always depend on it completely, like 100%, because majority of the time, these tests are usually showing a student's work ethic or capability of how well they can recall or retain information. Uh, on top of that, exam conditions are completely, I find it pretty unrealistic, because I can't really think of a time in my job where I have to write like 10 maths questions in like an hour. And it's extremely stressful. So obviously a student will not do that well. Um, uh, but also on top of that, when the curriculum is designed in a way where a student will learn for like 5 months and then give a test, and then again 5 months and give a test, and their grades are depending on those two tests, a student naturally prioritize learning to get good marks instead of learning to use this information in their real life. So it kind of just blurs the whole purpose of going to school, which is to learn and implement these teachings in our life. Instead, we end up just learning, giving the test, and then just forgetting it in a few days. Honestly, I forgot most of the things I learned for my mocks last month. So I don't think it's a good and efficient way, but I still don't think that we should scrap exams altogether. I think, as you said, as an alternative, we can introduce situations, realistic situations where we could use these knowledge. Like practicals is a really good way of testing a student's capability. Majority of the schools do not keep practicals as a test, but I think it's a really good practice if a lot of students do, a lot of schools do, because then a student's capability will it will be represented more on their report card.
My point of view is there should be no maximum or majority emphasis on a particular thing. that's because we are putting more emphasis on the final exams, and that is why the students feel that we should give more priority to the exams than what is being done in the middle, as in the assessment, internal assessments and the quiz. And yeah, I think if we put equal emphasis on all the things that the teacher is doing, is ensuring for students to learn, then in that way the students will not have the feeling of the stress of attending the exams and all that.
Thank you, Amat and Subeta, for sharing your thoughts. Sandra, can you please?
So to answer this question, I believe that we must first understand the purpose of education and the purpose of learning. I mean, I believe that the right kind of education contributes to our intelligence and our IQ, as well as our EQ, that is our emotional quotient. That is, just as Ms. had mentioned before, it helps us to become more empathetic and tolerant, and it helps us to lead healthy lives. It helps us to be self-motivated. It helps us to be environmentally conscious and all that. It's the right kind of education is the complete package. And so while exams and tests can determine a student's knowledge and it can assess their competence to a certain level, it cannot assess the entire education of a person. I mean, as I said, education encompasses both IQ as well as EQ, and also the different interests that the students have. For example, a student can be interested in reading books and collecting information, garnering knowledge. But at the same time, there are students who are good at artistic fields. Some students are good at drawing. Some students are good at speaking. Some students are good at singing. So every student is unique in their own way. And so when educational institutions assess a student, it cannot be solely done on their knowledge. And so educational institutions have to be ready to think outside the box and come up with innovative ideas so that there can be a holistic evaluation of a student. There can be, I believe that schools can conduct art contests, cultural competitions, online debates, singing competitions. I mean, it can go all out. Just to assess a person, it can be holistically done so that it's not just restricted or confined to what a person knows from the books or how book smart a person is. So yes, I do believe that report cards and assessments do not judge a person's knowledge solely. Yeah.
Thank you, Sandra. Your thoughts were really impressive. Miss, can you share your viewpoints?
Okay, so there are some parts where I agree with all three of you. There are some parts I think I need to clarify. First thing, you may not share my views, but we've all gone through this phase that you're going through. Yes, you are in a difficult time because of the COVID scenario, but we've all been students at some point of time. So first thing I want to tell you is that there should be a foundation for learning, right? If you don't know the basics, if your foundation is not good, imagine a building. If the foundation is made with cement that is not of a good quality, rusted pieces of iron, then what will happen? The building will not stay. The building will not be functional. In the same way, consider yourselves to be those buildings. Okay, so the foundation has to be very, very strong. After that, you branch out to any practicality. You branch out to applying your knowledge. But if there is no foundation, if there is no basics, what exactly will you apply? For application, you need to know, right? If you see in a Bloom's taxonomy, I don't know how many people are aware of it. It starts with memorization and it ends with application. So that is the first step. I'm not saying memorization is good, but you need to learn, right? And so on and so forth. So that is how it grows. Yes, you need that application, but only after your base has been strengthened. So that is the first thing. Second thing is coming to the assessment process. I don't know whether you are aware of it, but most of the schools, I can talk about my own school, there are marks allotted for class interaction, marks, real marks, 10 marks each, 20 marks each term that you get a report card. So it is on class interaction, it is on group work, it is on how you speak, right? It is your engagement with the work, right? We assess that. Now, don't ask me how do we assess that, because that comes from our expertise. We see how you have answered the question, whether there is any engagement in you, right? So that is how. So all that is included. One more thing, it is not only the final exam that matters, right? From the 5-mark diagnostic test that you're doing till the 100-mark summative exam that you're doing, every bit counts, right? So application, and when you are writing, I can speak for English because I'm an English teacher. You don't get, you don't get pieces which you have studied before. What do you do there? You apply the skills. What I have taught you in class, or what we have discussed in class, whether it be analysis, evaluation, imaginative writing, whatever, you apply those skills, right? And you write something else, or you analyze a piece that is unseen, okay? Unseen prose piece, you analyze. So that is also, apart from that, there are CAT 4, there are GL examination, and all of that are taken into account, are put into the report card system, and only after that you get the final marks. It is not only the final exam marks. So that is the second thing. The third thing is that a very important thing that you might have noticed in your report cards, I think all schools will have this thing in the report card, is a comment on character from the class teacher. Why? Because we believe in the holistic development of the child. It is difficult to assess the behavior on a scale of 1 to 10, but we can definitely comment on it. What is the child good at? Where does the child need to improve? In some report cards, in some schools report cards, there can be markers. Empathy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hard work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in some schools, the report cards, the teacher can write. It depends on school to school. But each school will have a column in their report card where the teacher will write, the class teacher mainly, will write about the person's character, about the strengths and weaknesses of the character, okay? So that the flaws can be overcome and the strengths can be used, okay, for the development of the child further. Next, different curriculums, different boards have different system. Now, whatever you do, of course, due to the pandemic situation, everything has been scraped off, but there are multiple opportunities, the MUN, where you go and you apply your skills. The other, when you have also in the school, the talent show, when you go and you show off your talent, you sing, you dance, ethnic day, when you show off your ethnicity, you talk about it. So there are various opportunities. I'm not talking about the COVID year because it has been different for all of us, but before, and I hope after also, we will be able to continue that.
Thank you so much, Miss, for your wise words. I was really, it was awesome. Yeah, it made me think in depth and further on. Thank you so much, Miss. So Sharon, do you want to talk about your opinion?
In my opinion, no, they are not good enough to judge a student's learning, because now during this online learning, many kids cheat and get marks for zero efforts from their side. A way to judge a student's learning can be through consistent attention from the teachers, basically to see the student's potential through class environment, how they are active, or to their small assignments, tests, and activities. Secondly, it's more on how practically hands on a student becomes, because what you learn in school, nothing comes in handy when you're actually working. However, it's more about what you learn and how you implement it in your discipline and in your skills, like leadership skills, and various other skills that will help in your future, but not the marks. The marks will help, you'll need the marks for your higher studies to get admitted in good universities. Marks help you to a certain extent, like being competitive.
Thank you, Sharon. Does anyone want to comment on what she just said? Miss, do you want to tell something like you were, it seems you were,
Uh,
yeah.
See, I agree with you, Sharon, saying that marks do not define a person, right? But marks, it is required. Just like money can't buy us happiness, but money is definitely required for our survival. In the same way, marks will not define us. There are a lot of attributes that we have, right? As Sandra had said earlier, being empathetic, and there are lots of things which makes a human being. But yes, because there is no alternative, you have to test those knowledge. Also, what Subeta said that 5 months back, what I had studied for mock exams, I don't remember. Seriously, if you ask me a maths question, I will fail now. I don't remember anything. I don't. But I have the basics. Now, if you ask me 11th grade maths question, I will not know the answer. But yes, I have the basics. I know how to do a day-to-day regular maths and the percentage and average and etc. So that those maths lessons, those are still helping me, right? So 10 years down the lane, when you become a doctor or an engineer or a fashion designer, whatever, if I ask you, can you tell me what is this linguistic device? You might have forgotten, but you will know how to read and appreciate the writer's craft. You may not remember the exact thing, whether it's a simile, metaphor, personification, onomatopoeia, you might have forgotten, and rightly so, because human memory is not a very, it's not a long lasting memory. But you will see that writing and you will know how to appreciate that writing. That is what remains with us. And that is why this education system, this exam and this education system is so very important to us. Okay.
Miss, I agree, and I like that you said marks don't define us, because most students, like majority of the students, like in this era, kind of believe into the believe into the aspect that marks are everything. Like, if a particular, like I've heard stories that people kind of failed, not really failed, but got poor results for their board exams, mostly in India, back in India. They were like initially like and for a long time they were like in depression. They were like, I'm gonna be unsuccessful. Um I'm not gonna succeed in life anymore. I like the I agree with the point that you said that marks don't define us, because it's just how do I say, it's just a point in life where you learn about yourself. Like if after you fail after you fail those exams, you kind of understand who you are. You feel like that like suppose for example, if a person failed in maths, or okay, in science for example, the person would be like, okay, science is not my field, I don't have to go in that path anymore. The person would search for another path which where he or she is good at. So Miss, I really appreciate for you for telling that point, because I haven't heard it much lately. Yeah, and also I feel that results from exams cannot judge a person's intelligence, because intelligence is something abstract, and it can actually determine students learning of those topics. Nonetheless, students often like memorize the concepts, the ideologies, topics, everything for the exam. Like for biology, we study all those topics. Like students memorize those topics and they pour it out into the exam paper. That definitely doesn't mean that the student has a concrete, clear, concrete understanding or a lucid understanding of the topics. So he or she, when they are the student did not acquire a clear concrete understanding. So when he or she is in future put into a real life situation, it would be difficult for he or she to handle it. And I remember some of my friends telling me, like all of my friends, they're like, oh my god, I need to get good grades for this mock exam or else I'm gonna die, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I was also like that. I was like, well, that's actually a good thought, because that's actually a positive thought, because the student is determined and focused to get good grades. And yeah, but I believe that students, as Subeta said, students in this era aim to get good grades rather than trying to like understand the concepts like effectively and efficiently. And as I said earlier, intelligence is something like is something abstract. It's something unfathomable, as it is based on a person's thinking, understanding, critical thinking, and problem solving skills, which is immeasurable. You cannot measure it. And students from different cultural backgrounds are often disparaged and criticized for being unintelligent, and yeah, not being that clever. um, this is actually like coming up from this is actually based upon it's emanated from poor exam results. um, Albert Einstein, he was a great physicist. He had flunked most of his tests like innumerable times. When I heard of it, I was like, wow, he was just an ordinary human being like us. We are all like, he's a genius, but he has also been as an ordinary human being as everyone. But he had worked harder, and that's how he became successful. And after learning his story, after learning about this, I felt that a student's intelligence should be measured in something which they're good at. And in fact, I believe that intelligence should not be measured, but the effort should be measured. Intelligence can be measured, it's a choice, but mainly I want effort should be like measured. Like most of the schools in this era are measuring that. But I feel like schools should continue to encourage and like appreciate students who are hardworking and diligent, along with the clever and smart ones. I also learned in psychology that there was this psychologist. Her name was Carol Dweck. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So she told there were two type of praises. One was person praise and one was process praise. So I don't know, but I feel like I personally feel that in this era, not in UAE but in the eastern side of the world, I feel that person praise is more common. Where person praise, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't explain what each phrases were. So person praise is where an adult, like for an example, praises a child or a student for being smart, like, and the praises are like, you are smart, you are intelligent, and students and the child feels that the student is intelligent from the day he or she was born. And process praise is praising the student, praising the individual for the effort he or she puts. And the student will realize that practicing a lot, putting effort will make you successful, make that person successful. And the student won't be like a person is successful, like born intelligent, sorry. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Um, does anyone want to comment on what I just said?
Afia, you said one of your friends made a statement that she's going to flunk the exam, she's going to die. And you also said that statement is good for motivation. First of all, that statement is not a sign of positivity, because yes, if she's successful, then it's good. But to say that that's the end of the world. Students should also know how to take failures also. Like if they flunk the test, it's okay. There are better ways to come out of that. So that statement shouldn't be the mindset among students. Like, okay, you have to do your best efforts. You have to learn. If you're getting good marks, that is good. If you're getting marks which you're not expecting, then find ways to correct it. That's not the end of the world. And secondly, this is a discussion that is recurring. Like first, we are saying that as Sandra says, marks are not the way to determine a student's intelligence. And then the next question comes: if marks are not the way, then there should be a yardstick, definitely, because we cannot say that this person is intelligent, give him a job, right? Because obviously after education comes employment, and you cannot go for a walk-in interview with Infosys and say that yes, I'm intelligent, and you cannot expect them to give you a job, right? There should be a yardstick. There should be a criteria which says that this person is qualified, this person is skilled. And then the next question comes: what yardstick is best to determine a person's intelligence? So this is like a recurring discussion, and many educational bodies are trying to find a solution for this by ways like how ma'am said, there are different methods used to quantify or assess a student's intelligence. And one thing that I find intriguing is there is this website called cast.com, wherein they give online workshops and symposiums in view of COVID pandemic, since we cannot afford the in-person interaction. That is a luxury now, right? So online workshops are being conducted, and there is this thing called Universal Design for Learning, which is the acronym for UDL. I would suggest everyone to go have a look at it on the internet, because that is a blueprint, and they teach both educators and students on how to have inclusive education. Like how other participants said that some people love reading books, some people are very artistic. So how do you teach these types of people? So the UDL, it is like a set of teaching methods that tell how to teach all sorts of people and all that. So that was a very interesting article that I came across, and I would like to share that. So that says that the education system is ever so dynamic. It is not stagnant. It is finding ways to combat issues, and the recent issue that it is fighting is the COVID situation.
Thank you, Amat. It had like actually, as you said before, as you said earlier, students like this era are really like frantic about marks. They can't they cannot actually accept the results which they are getting. They move into great depression, sorrow, etc. Like in UAE, like school teachers, they all like my school teachers, my class teachers, they all they all help us. Like even if we get like poor results or something, they help us stay confident. Like that day when we went to check our results for the mock exams, I remember my class teacher telling me how we can perform well next time. Like not telling me, but to the other classmates, how we can perform well next time. And when teachers give that reassuring words, it's actually like boosting our confidence. And I and yeah I, and I initially, like earlier, I wouldn't like I was really um how do I say, really, I was panic. I will be panicking if I get really bad results for the exams. But as I worked harder, as I start to work harder on coping up with those feelings, yes. And yeah, so let's move to the third question. So, can the current generation adapt with the conventional schooling methods, or should we bring in reforms to meet the technical and entrepreneur skills required? Um, Sharon, can you please share your opinion? Yeah.
Yes, it is very much needed. I had gone through conventional schooling methods, so I would easily adapt back. However, the younger generation, the ones in nursery and KG1, would most probably prefer the more technically advanced education. A problem many face due to conventional schooling method is that the method is very traditionally backwards, that we cannot adapt to this new generation's advanced method. Um, so, in conclusion, this generation can adapt with the conventional method, but in my opinion, they shouldn't. They can go back to school and be interactive with their teachers and friends, but that won't help them develop at all. So, we need to have technological developments.
Oh yeah, yeah. What you said is true. Like kids in the foundation stage, they need they need to acquire technical skills so that because technology has become a necessity in this world. So yeah, I totally agree with what you said. Uh, Sandra, can you share us your thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, so the conventional educational system has not been specifically effective in developing practical skills in students so that they are well equipped when they are stepping out into the real world and pursuing employment or self employment opportunities. So I feel that the educational system should be well blended and more flexible so as to allow each student to work upon their own talents and their own passions and their own abilities. For example, or like as a case in point, I would say that vocational training should be incorporated into the mainstream education so that the students do feel incentivized to follow their passion and follow what they have planned for the future, and it makes them well, it keeps them well equipped for the future so that when they step out into the real world, they can face all the challenges that come that they have to face. And yeah, it'll help them to be ready for employment and to enter into employment. Yeah.
I actually feel that um, schools should definitely teach technical skills to students as it is highly essential. It's really important in this era because everyone requires technology to navigate through our lives. Like most occupation these days use technology, and I believe it will become a necessity in the future. And actually, it has become a necessity. Okay, to be honest, I learned from my city textbook that those maintenance work, those occupations these days require technical skills, like. And yeah, and I was like surprised because technology is like blossoming a lot like these days. And I also feel that students need to be proficient and skilled in technical field, as technology helps us in discovering intricate phenomena. Like the coronavirus, technology has helped us like investigate, discover more on that matter. Like the shape of the coronavirus, the crown shape, and also in the making of vaccines and stuff. And in a way it also makes life easier, technology. Like have you guys, I think everyone might have heard of it, smart homes, where if you don't have to walk few steps to switch off the light in the living room, you can just switch on your phone, go to this app and switch off the light in the living room. Like you can just use your fingers, you don't have to walk. It makes, in a way, it makes life easier. And also technology helps students like understand complicated topics. Those simulations which you just talked about, board works, our biology teacher shows us, though those were really effective and beneficial for me. And it actually wholly captivates students into learning. uh, you guys remember, like when we were younger, we were like really eager to watch videos and do the activities on that smart board. Like, you know, I actually remember our teacher used to like in my, I think in my old school, our teacher used to give us this smart board pen kind of thing, and you can write on that smart board. It was actually cool, and in a way, this crucial tool actually like helped, like prompted us to learn. I also remember like in when I was in ninth or tenth, I remember the time I was in flux because I couldn't understand the concept of mitosis. Oh my god, the chromosomes and everything, it was really confusing. So I learned it from my textbook, but I was still baffled a bit. So once my teacher showed up to the class, she explained it to us using those simulations, and all my doubts were cleared up. uh, but like, in a way, I kind of feel that technology has has benefits too. And also, in this unprecedented crisis, the pandemic, the global pandemic, technology has actually played a productive role in helping us continue with our school life and official work, our parents with official work too. And I also believe that it helps teachers as well in assigning homework in Google Classroom, in Microsoft Teams, and scheduling classes using that Zoom app, in using the Zoom app. And overall, it keeps the class focused into what's being taught. My chemistry teacher uses the whiteboard, Zoom whiteboard, to teach us those formulas and stuff. And yeah, it's really effective. And entrepreneur skills are also indispensable. As students are the future, we are the future. So we may need to solve major issues which we may encounter in the future. Something as complicated as a coronavirus. And using strategies, using those entrepreneur skills, like leadership skills, collaborative skills, critical thinking, all these skills, etc., are vital. And in a way, I feel like entrepreneur qualities help the society to grow, develop, and prosper. It also creates jobs, so there is more employment in the country, in the world, in the future. And freshmen, I feel it's really important, crucial for freshmen, because as they are taught practical skills when they move to the next level of education, universities, where there's frequent training and internships. Do you guys want to share anything?
I have something to say. As
Sure.
I disagree in one point you said, where you said more new jobs will be created if a lot of people will be more technologically educated. So I disagree with that because I fear that as technology becomes more advanced, humans become more easily replaceable. And so if we teach students on how to use technology, instead of technology depending on us, we become dependent on technology. And when that happens, so many jobs will get erased and lost, like taxi drivers, and then food delivery taxi drivers have become replaced with Ubers, and then factory workers become replaced with robots. And it is really, really scary. Where the other day, I was talking to my dad about things I like, and I kind of told how maybe chemical engineering sounds pretty interesting to me. And my dad said that by the time you grow up to choose a job, you will most probably be replaced by robots. So what is promising me that I will get a job in chemical engineering when technology is slowly becoming so more advanced that they are more qualified than me and they will get the job over me? In 30 years down the line, instead of competing with each other to get a job, we will be competing with robots who are way, way more capable than us because they have literally no imperfections like human breed does. So I still think that we should still teach and practice the human essence that we have that robots can never have. So in that way, we will not be dominated by robots in these dystopian stories portrayed to be.
Yeah, you actually like remind me of the 1984 story, Big Brother. Oh my God. Yeah, true. Miss, would you like to share us your thoughts?
So your initial question was conventional teaching, right? And I think Sandra included vocational thing, right? Now, technical knowledge and vocational training are two different things, right? Vocational training are certain skills that you need to, like cooking, that can be a vocational training, like sewing, that can be a vocational training. something like that. That is a vocational training. So that is something different. For that, most of the schools, even our school, has activity classes. So where your vocation is developed. So you have debates, you have cookery, those activity periods, you have best out of waste. So all of that. So that is different. Okay. So now coming to the technical part. Now there are lots of thoughts going on. One thing what Subeta says, which is really quite frightening, is when artificial intelligence replaces us humans. That will be really frightening. I don't know when that will come. But, I feel that, not from the education point of view, but I feel that no one can replace us human beings, because yes, we might be competing with robots. We might be, they might take, but at the end of the day, there will be a human being who will be in charge of those robots. And yes, jobs may reduce. Coming back to the education thing and how, technical aspects should be incorporated. That is a very good thing, what you have said, Aafia. But again, I also agree with Subeta that we should not be absolutely dependent on technology. There are lots of research-based studies that has been going on. We have written blogs, the students, I'm telling, digital newspapers they have created in the past. They have designed websites. So these were all parts of school projects. They have written articles, made PPTs, presentations. Also, if you remember, when you were asked to do the spoken language endorsement, do you remember how many hours of research went behind that? Researching, getting evidences. So there also you use technology. So knowingly or unknowingly, whether it is a direct enforcement or whether it is done unintentionally. However, in both ways, technology is being incorporated in day-to-day life, in education, in everyday lessons.
Thank you, Ms. For sharing your ideas and your thought processes. So, Amat, do you want to share anything on this question?
Yeah, sorry, my net connection is, India. So India is, and also, the network is very sarcastically speaking, very perfect, that I had to sign in and out frequently, and then I'm using another device. So I'm really sorry I missed up on the major parts and what the other participants have got to say. Is this the same question or you've moved to the final one?
We are on the question why is technical and entrepreneurial skills supposed to be taught in school? Yeah.
It should definitely be taught, as long as, but considering the current situation, can skills like entrepreneurial skills and other essential skills be instilled in the minds of students? It won't be like how there is definitely a difference between online and offline classes, right? Even with technology, now I'm experiencing the limitations of technology. As long as there is a stable network connection, only then you get to experience all the technology and all that things. But if you're not having a stable network connection for countries like in India, I'm sure that won't be an issue in UAE or any other countries, any other developed countries, because sure, network is not an issue there. But India and other countries here, and I'm sure Sandra will agree with me because she's from Kochi and I'm from Chennai, network is a problem here. So as long as the students have unlimited Wi-Fi access and also the teachers have unlimited Wi-Fi access, only then this bridge will be linked between learning and technology. And so that is an issue here. So that should be addressed first. Only then we can say the full process, the learning process is complete when it comes to students. And also, have you seen this? There are lots of TikToks coming, like how the students, they cheat the teachers by saying, if the teachers demand to switch the videos on, these students, what they do is they have a pre-recorded version of them attending the class as if they are looking at the camera and nodding their heads occasionally. They record that and then they do something
such that their webcam is on, but the webcam is, it is viewing only the pre-recorded version, and the student is busy doing something else. So these kinds of things are also there because the teacher, there is only an orifice, and that orifice is the screen that she's seeing, and she cannot see what is happening beyond that. Same goes for the students. So only that screen is where they get to have the knowledge, and that should be, if that should be perfected, then the students should be thoroughly engaged, and the network problem is also there. And like how Sharon said previously, the children who are new to education, who are being the first people to taught, like for example, the kindergartens, and also students who are pursuing their classes for the first time, the masters and in other courses, they're doing the first years in that, so they don't get to have that in-person interaction with their new friends and with the faculty. So these people are the ones who are greatly targeted, who are greatly affected, I should say, affected by the pandemic situation. So let's all hope that after this pandemic, we get to acclimatize with the in-person and offline interaction that we had before the pandemic.
Thanks, Amat. Yeah. Subeta, can you ask your question?
Yeah, so although a lot of opinions say that technology should be incorporated in school, many schools still do not teach technical education. So I was wondering, what is the benefit of a technologically deprived curriculum on the students and on the school?
Miss, can you please share your thoughts, please?
What is the benefit of technology deprived education system?
Yes.
Okay. See, let me just explain something first. When we were young, when we were your age, or maybe when we were school students, we did not have a laptop. Mobile phones were not yet in our hands. My first mobile phone when I was doing my master's, right? You can't even think of that. So, but we still survived. I am here because what I did then. Now, if I sit and argue that, okay, your mobile phones will be taken away from you, all access to technology will be cut off, will you be able to survive or, be productive as much as you are now? No. Each age, each time, they have their own requirement. When we were there, I think when I was in maybe high school, only then, I think, even Xerox, you know what is Xeroxing, right? Photocopying. That became available to us. Before that, we used to write down. Whatever notes was that, we used to write down. So we were used to that, right? Now you are used to this. So with every age, with every time, with every, decade, there is a shift in the world. And that encompasses education also. So now we cannot think of a technology deprived education system because it will not be fruitful to you. You will not be productive. So it is absolutely imperative to keep a balance between technology and the normal work. Because if technology overwhelms you, and be very careful, because we have so much of data available online, it can overwhelm you. We did not have, when we were small, we did not know what was body shaming. But now you know. We did not have Instagram influencers. We did not have to look up to somebody and think, oh my God, see her waist, it's 24, see my waist, it's 36. We never thought about that. But today's generation thinks about it. So you cannot compare it. There is no comparison between the two, the two times. So now, of course, all schools have incorporated technology in their own ways. some schools in a huge way, some schools with their limited resources in a smaller way. But yes, all schools, it is a prerequisite now that you incorporate technology, right? Because this is the need of the day. This is the need of the hour, right? But at the same time, it is imperative, I'm telling you and constantly telling you, not to become too dependent on technology. Because as you said, Subeta, that when your mom was asking you to do the percentage, you could not do. That is the problem. So there should be a balance.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
fully agree with ma'am. Technology is just an instrument to use, it is just an instrument to teach students. It shouldn't be the only way of teaching students, and education, I believe, should be dynamic and adaptable to situations. We cannot say, okay, definitely technology is there and we are using it for our convenience. But if we are relying entirely on technology, then there will be limitations, just like how there are limitations in technology. So I believe there should be a hybrid kind of education. Now that we are having this COVID, be it even COVID or post-pandemic, we should make sure there is like a combination of all modes of education. We cannot rely on just one type and say that this is the best, because even the best of the best will have its own flaws. So we need to make sure there are other ways as well.
Yes, Amat, I absolutely agree with you. You know something I truly believe in? Technology can fail you. This, what is here, will never fail you. I can go to a class with a PowerPoint presentation that I have downloaded, but I don't know anything. I plan to show the PowerPoint presentation I want, and I have to teach. My laptop crashes. What do I do? So you cannot rely on technology fully. It should come from here. This is the important part.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Amat and Ms. for sharing your thoughts. Sandra?
As many of you spoke, a technologically deprived curriculum can be, I think that it can be beneficial, but at the same time, it can be detrimental as well. I mean, in my case, if I just keep the phone away, or in my case, it's a tab, if I keep the tab away for like 1 hour or 2 hours, I'm able to concentrate in my work and, work productively. But at the same time, if I don't take my tab for like 2 hours, then I wouldn't be able to, because it's the remote learning time now, because it's online learning, I won't be able to do my work or complete my work. So I would say that as much as I am dependent on on technology, I also shy away from it, and I also try to concentrate on my work and concentrate on developing myself rather than becoming addicted. So a technologically deprived curriculum, I believe, would be really useful, as in people, verbal communication wouldn't be so redundant then, as in we would be encouraged to talk face to face. We would be our interpersonal skills would evolve if technology wasn't so prevalent now. But since technology is prevalent now, and since we cannot do a lot of things about it because technology is there, it's ubiquitous. So I believe that we must move on with what we have and with what we can, and we have to accept technology, and we have to cope with it and adapt with it, and we have to see it in an optimistic manner, use technology for our own development and for our growth, and move on with it like that.
Thank you, Sandra. Actually, it's the same case here, because I also feel that technology has its pros and has its cons too. But as she said, we have to take it in a positive spirit and deal with it. So I actually feel that technology has its own distinctable hitches, like disadvantages too. So, the development of technology has led to social media. Uh, Students our age, younger actually, are certainly become engrossed into social media these days, and I've heard they're not studious as before, and it's happening in our society actually, and this has not been observed in a small number of pupils but in a large scale actually. A study actually was performed by BMC Psychology. So they found that increase in the excessive use of social media has led to decrease in the academic performance. So in a way, social media has immensely distracted students from their studies, and it can actually lead to health issues, which I actually mentioned here earlier, like eye strain, etc. And I also feel students who do not have access to technology, like those in the rural areas, rural countries, rural cities and places, I feel it's actually benefit for them because in those places technology has not become a necessity for them, but in urban areas like in UAE and other cosmopolitan countries, it has become essential. It has become a requisite, as Miss said earlier. And yeah, that's it. Does anyone want to share anything? Okay, so we will move on to the next question. Amat, can you please share your question on practicals?
Yeah, I was actually having because Balka before previously she was talking about the practicals. So that got me thinking that now that we are in the COVID-19 pandemic situation, which has restrained us to just a screen and learning, right? So definitely practicals or visiting the lab for having experiments, that is out of the question. We cannot do that. Even if we try doing that online, it will never be as effective as having a in-person interaction and having getting to see that experiment in person and finding out what is coming out and the observation. That can never be parallel to what we do. Even if we do have many methods of inculcating practicals among students in online platforms, it can never be the same as how we do in offline platforms. So I was thinking that is there any way or if there are any solutions to combat this problem? Because just like how we learn theory, just like how we know that acids and bases and salts are different things we learn in chemistry, we should also know that acids and bases form salt and it's got its own qualities, and that we can learn only by performing and witnessing practicals. So I wanted to ask that in this situation, what are the ways to teach kids the practicals and conduct the experiments to them?
Sharon, can you please share us your thoughts on it?
I feel that students like now, kids aged about 12 are getting vaccination. So students aged 12 and older who are vaccinated can be called in batches at the school laboratory to do the practicals. For example, in a class there are 30 students, so the school can split them into two batches. The first batch can go one day and the next batch the next day. And in dire situations, they can record videos and share with students online and make them fill out worksheets.
Yeah, I actually agree with what Sharon said, because when we like usually these days in grade 11, the practicals, the teachers used to carry out the practicals, they record it and they send it to us. And we need to like, they give us activity based upon it and we need to work it out. So me and my friends were like really flummoxed on the procedure, on the results, on the findings and everything. So as Sharon said, I feel it's better if the school can call students who are interested, like split them into small groups and call them in different days. Yeah. Does anyone have any different opinions which they would like to share?
One thing I would like to tell you is that which I have maintained before also. Every quarter, the school has actually given an option to the students to come to school and take the blended learning, right? I had students in my own class, 11B. So that option was already open. Now coming to Sharon's, solution, although it is actually easier said than done. That's what I would say. Because, for example, take a normal week, right? You might have English, maths, then maybe geography, history, whatever, right? So science period you're called, but can you imagine commuting just for that period? If you're going, you will lose the other classes. Again, the next day, it will be the same thing. So if you have to, when the option is actually given to you to come to school, whether you opt for a blended learning or you opt for online learning, I think one thing that I agree with Sharon is that since 12 plus, vaccinations have been started, people who are vaccinated, you need to go to school so that you get a more hands-on experience. Because calling in batches, it is quite difficult if you see the timetable, if you see the larger picture, just not yourself. The timetable of the entire school, of all the classes and of all the teachers. And if we call you after the school, then the teachers need to stay back, right? So there are a lot of difficulties in calling students in batches to see. You either come to school and do the blended learning so that the practical classes can be done during the time that you are in school, or of course, because everything has its pros and cons.
Thank you, Miss. So we are in our final question. Sharon, can you please ask your cross question?
Do you think that the teachers were also put under strain during distance learning?
Sandra, can you answer that question, please?
So I do believe that teachers were put under the most strain in the educational field during the pandemic, at least in the initial stages, because I mean they had to evolve and they had to come up with new teaching methods that were effective, and they also had to adapt to those methods because of course they weren't familiar with those methods and therefore they had to adapt to those methods. So it was a complete transition from offline education to online education. And so when I learned that this question would be asked, I took the opportunity to ask my teacher what were the major struggles she had to face during the pandemic. And the first and foremost challenge that I learned was that the teachers, the first and foremost challenge that the teachers did face was to keep the students going. It's to keep the students engaged. It's to keep the students motivated, involved, and to simply keep the students going. And therefore, they had to come up with these innovative methods and activities in order to, keep the students involved, regularly involved, and actively participating in the school interactions and in the class. And the second challenge that the teachers had to face was that, how as Miss had mentioned before, students easily get distracted in their learning process. They get easily distracted when they are at home, and it's something simple. It's something simple and something that we can understand. As students, we have the internet before us, and we have a screen before us. We have YouTube, we have Chrome, we have Instagram, we have all that before us, and then we have a Zoom class. So many students, they opt to look at all these things in the internet, and they get distracted, and it can happen unknowingly, of course, and can happen knowingly. So during this distractions, the teacher realized, or the learner's realization for genuine progress, is lost. during this distractions and during this online learning as a whole. So that is one of the challenges that the teachers have to face. The teachers have to keep the students' realization for genuine progress intact, and teachers have to keep them motivated and going on. And and of course there are the students have to adapt to it and the teachers have to adapt to it. So these are some of the challenges that the teachers are facing right now, and therefore I strongly believe that teachers were put under a lot of strain during the pandemic time. Yeah.
I actually strongly agree with what Sandra said as well. I feel teachers were also in turmoil, just like students. Like, who would have thought that we would endure something difficult like this? And teachers actually had to like work longer hours than they usually did. Like they had to actually stay up past midnight and complete their work. So one of my teacher was actually sending the Zoom link for the class next day at 4 in the morning, and the teacher hardly had any good night's sleep. So I actually felt, I understood that all the teachers are in the same situation as her. So since technology has advanced, it is actually difficult, and it's because technology is something complex and enigmatic for the teachers to actually work through it. Because we students, we grew up in the environment where technology surged, it blossomed, it uh, burgeoned. But for teachers, when they were born and when they grew up, they didn't have much access to technology, they didn't have technology that much. So teachers as well, they actually use laptops for longer hours than students, for allocating homeworks, for Zoom sessions, for correcting the homeworks, tests, assignments, for putting the marks, for marking the attendance, and communicating with the other staff, the teachers, to discuss the plan and plan of the topics and lesson plans and stuff. So I feel teachers worked really hard, are still working really hard in this environment. And I actually want to say cheers to all the teachers who are helping us get through this time. Thank you so much. And Miss, do you want to share your thoughts?
I think you have said, just like transition was difficult for you, transition was difficult for us also. Yes, you called us old, but that's okay. Jokes aside, but yes, it was difficult. It was more difficult actually for us. You had longer hours of, doing the online assignments, and we had, even longer hours correcting them. And so, yes, and what Sandra said, I am absolutely, I absolutely second that, because keeping the children motivated was one of the major tasks that we had to do. We could just talk and talk and talk. And if the class was silent, then everything fell flat. So that was one of the major challenges, that, and people not attending. See, once you are in school, you have to attend all classes. But here, the students had the flexibility of not joining, and you just couldn't call them, right, for each class. The time did not permit. So yes, so those were the challenges you faced. And you will all know, as you said also, sending Zoom links at 4 a.m. in the morning. So yes, you know it all.
So we're going to wrap up our discussion. Thank you everyone for taking part in this discussion. Everyone had incredible ideas, which I didn't think of. And I would like to once again thank Rewire Talks for giving us this opportunity to talk about our views, opinions. And I also want to thank my teachers for helping us get through this upheaval and for working strenuously, as I said earlier. And this discussion actually helped me personally um, understand how education is consequential, how it is important, and how technology has helped us in this adversity, how it has connected all of us together. And it also helped me realize the importance of communication and interaction, which our lives are devoid of. Thank you, Amatu. Thank you, Ms. Kankanika, and for sharing your compelling thoughts. And Thank you, Amatu, as well. And thank you, guys, Sharon, Sandra, and Sibeta, for joining and making the discussion as lively as possible. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for inviting me to this discussion.
So I'm truly grateful to be part of this insightful session. I was able to learn, I was able to hear a lot of wonderful perceptions and get to know a lot of wonderful perspectives. And I'm genuinely grateful to you, Afia, for letting me be part of this session. And it really helped me to gain a lot of knowledge on various concepts. And the questions that you asked were very intelligent, and I'm really grateful that I was able to hear those answers too. So I'm genuinely grateful to be part of this session. So thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Akhil.
Thank you for taking part, Sandra, and sharing your perceptive thoughts. Sharon,
It was a very interactive session. It helped me widen my mindset, like how I think about it. I got to know different perspectives of this of the questions that were asked, and I'm really glad that I was part of it. Thank you, Afia. Thank you, RewirEd, for giving us this platform to talk in.
thank you, Sharon, for taking part and sharing your unique thoughts on practicals as well. Those were really outstanding. Amatu, yeah.
Yeah, so I told it before and I'm telling it again because I get to have very perceptive thoughts from different sections of people, students and teachers. So it was very insightful. I get to learn a lot from this discussion that we had. Uh, it is a irony that I couldn't even know that the time flew this fast because we were so engrossed in this discussion. We were talking about lots of things, technology, teachers, TikTok, many things. So it was very engrossing and very informative. I'm really happy and satisfied to be here. And thank you, Afia, for inviting me to this wonderful discussion.
Thank you, Amatu, for coming and for joining and sharing your um, diverse points. Yeah, those were really your thoughts were really how do I say, outstanding, really cool. I didn't even think about those aspects. Yeah, Subeta.
Thank you, Afia, for inviting me to this discussion. Honestly, it was so interesting to know all of your opinions, and the questions were so amazing. As Sandra said, like I couldn't stop talking. It was amazing. One thing that I took away from this discussion is the resilience of everyone that was included in this drastic shift. And I am happy to be a part of this generation who is motivated to get through all the things that life puts us through.
Thank you, Subeta, for attending. Yeah, as you said, exactly. I'm actually like happy to be part of this generation because, as Sharon said a number of times, those confident words that we can get through this crisis, this pandemic, safely and confidently and successfully. Yeah, those words actually like boosted my confidence, and yeah, it actually made me proud to be part of this generation where everyone is really, where everyone's having intuitive thoughts and how do I say, are really determined and focused. And yeah, thank you so much for taking your time and participating in this discussion. Thank you.